welcome back. We're reading Army Brats, and we're on chapter 2. As the gates of Fort Patrick came into view, Tom sat up straight and puffed out his chest the tiniest bit. Not that he was the officer in the car, that was Mom, but he was a member of an Army family and wanted to look like it. He could tell his sisters felt the same way. Charlotte was smoothing back her hair, and Rosie was straightening her shirt. Even Cupcake seemed to know something big was happening as she scrambled to her feet and looked out the window. There were several lanes leading to a security checkpoint that looked kind of like a toll booth, except for the tower with an armed guard looking down at all of the cars. There was also fencing stretching out on either side that was topped with razor wire. No one was getting into Fort Patrick unless they had the clearance to be there. It was kind of like they were driving into a modern-day fortress. When it was their turn at the booth, Dad passed their IDs to the soldier inside. "Do they need to do a car inspection too?" Rosie asked eagerly. "Or look under it with a mirror?" Tom added, remembering some of Mom's stories from living on post in Afghanistan. But Mom shook her head. "Right now, Fort Patrick is at FPCon Alpha," Mom said. "Force protection condition is what dictates the level of security getting onto the base. And there aren't mirrors or comprehensive vehicle checks at Alpha. You see that at FPCon Charlie or Delta." Rosie nodded, clearly tucking the knowledge away for another day when she would probably call it FC Fawn Alba Chutney or Delta. Once the ID inspection was completed, the soldier handed the cards back and gave Mom a smart salute. Mom may have been assigned instructor duty for the next few years, which was why the family was moving to Fort Patrick, but she could still hit a target from 100 feet away and wrestle someone twice her size to the ground in under a minute. Mom was the real deal. And no one messed with her. Well, except for Rosie, but she was probably going to grow up to be a general. "Check out the ice cream shop," Charlotte said, as they drove slowly down a street lined with stores and restaurants. "Charlotte, you and Tom are going to be able to walk or bike here whenever you want," Mom said. "Rosie, you'll be able to go with them." "Really?" Tom asked. In Pennsylvania, they'd been able to go around their neighborhood by themselves, but never all the way into town without a grown-up. "Yep," Mom said. She clicked off the AC, rolled down her window all the way, and rested an elbow on the edge. A warm breeze moved through the car. "You'll be free to go anywhere on post. Anywhere military dependents are permitted, that is," she said. Tom looked at Charlotte, who was smiling. "That's so cool," she said. "I think the PX and commissary are that way," Dad said, pointing down a street. Tom glimpsed the sign for the commissary, the big post grocery shop. The PX was the box store that carried everything from car parts to rain boots. Since Mom worked long hours and Dad had flexibility with his freelance graphic design business, he was the one in charge of household things like shopping, cooking, and the occasional auto repair. The minivan was now going by the post pool. "Whoa," Rosie said. Tom gazed out at the water slide, high dive, and huge stretch of water that made an Olympic-sized pool look like a wading pool. "Whoa," pretty much said it all. "We can't go swimming alone, can we?" Charlotte asked. "Actually, you can," Mom said, and Charlotte squealed. "Things on post are safe. Crossing guards will help you get to school. Lifeguards are stationed all around the pool, and neighbors here watch out for each other." Which translated to Tom as even more freedom. This was going to be awesome. "And here's the residential neighborhood for officers," Mom said, as Dad made a right turn. "I think our place is just a few streets away," she went on, peering at numbers on the mailboxes at the end of each driveway. As would be expected on any Army post, each yard had neatly trimmed grass and carefully tended flower beds, without a single weed in sight. The houses themselves were simple ranch style, with off-white siding. Tom was hoping maybe their house was a cool color, bright green maybe, but when Dad pulled up the minivan into the drive of 32 Bingham Road, the house was the same as the others on the block. The family piled out, and Mom began giving orders. Tom, you grab those two small duffel bags. Charlotte, the big suitcase is your responsibility. And Rosie, you are in charge of Cupcake. Rosie and Cupcake ran toward the backyard, both clearly thrilled to finally be out of the car. The front and backyards had fences, which meant Cupcake could roam freely as long as the gate was securely latched. Cupcake would enjoy the yard. She was big on exploring new places, something they all encouraged. Because 2 years ago, when they first met her, Cupcake was a very different dog. Dad and Rosie I'm sorry, had heard the sound of crying coming from under a parked car in the lot at the grocery store. They peeked under and saw two terrified brown eyes staring back. It had taken ages to coax the skittish, starving puppy out, and once home, Cupcake had trembled whenever any of them came too close. But lots of food, lots of toys, and above all, lots of love had transformed Cupcake into the affectionate, playful dog that the Baileys adored. Tom grabbed a duffel in each hand and headed up the stone path and onto the front porch. It was freshly painted, as were the walls of the entry hall, and the slight scent of lemon cleanser hung in the air. There's a nice kitchen, Mom called to Dad, who grinned. He loved cooking, and all of the Baileys loved eating his delicious meals. While Tom was already feeling hungry for dinner, lunch of sandwiches from the cooler felt like 100 hours ago. He was not concerned with the kitchen just now. His thoughts were on the upstairs, specifically the bedroom situation. Evidently, Charlotte was thinking the same thing because she was headed straight for the stairs. Tom tried to cut her off, but Charlotte employed a tricky elbow move and left him in the dust. Still, he caught up before she'd reached the top of the staircase. They ran down the hall together, investigating each room they came to. Dad and I divided up the rooms, Mom said, coming up behind them. She was carrying a garment bag that Tom knew held her army uniform, freshly pressed and ready for action. Since this house just has 3 bedrooms, Tom gets the small one, and Charlotte and Rosie will have the big one. Sounds fair to me. Tom sighed. The small room was barely big enough for his bed and desk, plus it was right next to the bathroom. Meanwhile, the big room was huge, with built-in bookshelves and 3 windows. But Mom was looking at Charlotte sympathetically. I know we hoped this would be the place you could have your own room, sweetie, but I'm confident you'll make the best of sharing like you always do. Rosie's just so messy, Charlotte said, tugging on a braid. Tom now felt slightly guilty that he was the lucky one with his own room, even if it was small. Rosie really could be a slob. If she's messy, she'll fail inspection, Dad said, coming up the stairs and huffing a little from the load of boxes in his arms. Rosie's going to have inspection too, Charlotte asked, surprised. The two older Baileys had been suffering room inspections for years. If Dad, who would have run the cleanest barracks in the entire army, found one thing out of place, allowance was docked, which was why Charlotte and Tom had the neatest rooms of anyone they knew. They liked their allowance. Dad and I agreed Rosie's old enough, Mom affirmed, leading them into the big bedroom. And since you two girls are sharing space again, it needs to be livable for both of you. Dad set a box labeled dolls on the floor. Charlotte loved playing with dolls and had a big dollhouse to go with her collection. Recently, she started letting Rosie play with her. Okay, I bet it will be fine, Charlotte said with a nod. As long as she keeps things clean, it will be fun to share the dollhouse in here. Mom smiled. That's my girl, she said. Then she headed off to change while Dad walked toward the bathroom with his last 2 boxes. Tom was about to ask Charlotte if she wanted to check out the rest of the house when he heard a sharp sound just outside the window. He jumped straight up, shrieking. What could it be? No need for the screech of doom, Charlotte said calmly. She walked over to the window and looked outside. It's just acorns falling off the porch roof. Silly. Perhaps it was best Tom didn't have this room after all, as it came with surprise noises. Tom had always had yikes, a strong startle reflex, complete with what the family had dubbed the screech of doom. It was kind of on the loud side and very squeaky. Tom kept hoping he'd outgrow it because screeching was totally mortifying. but it seemed to be hardwired into him, just like his love of comics, his dyslexia, and his aversion to pickles. Dad poked his head back in the room. Let's finish unloading the car and do some unpacking while Mom goes in for her meetings. Tom and Charlotte trooped down the stairs after him, ready to help. But when they got to the front yard, Tom noticed a girl about their age standing in the yard of the house next door, looking over at them. Can we go say hi to our neighbor? Tom asked, hoping to get some tips on post living. Sure, Dad said. Just don't stay out too long. We want to get the house ready so we can enjoy the last few days of summer before school starts. Tom and Charlotte headed next door. Hey, the girl called when they came to the white wooden fence that separated their yards. She had dark brown skin and wore a red headband in her short black hair. Come on in, she opened the gate for them. I'm Natasha Wilson, but everyone calls me Tosh. I'm Tom, and this is Charlotte, Tom said. Are you guys twins? Tosh asked, looking at them quizzically. No, I'm older, Tom said, but we're both going into sixth grade. It was always good to get the same grade thing out of the way early on because everyone had questions about it. But to Tom's surprise, Tosh just nodded. Tom realized that, as an Army kid, she understood about how moving all over the place could end up changing your grade, and he grinned. Living with kids who got Army life was going to be awesome. I'm going to sixth grade too, Tosh said, frowning slightly. I hope we don't get too much homework. I play the tuba and I need a lot of time to practice for competitions and stuff. Cool, Charlotte said. Tosh smiled. Yeah, I want to play in a military band when I grow up. And this year at the middle school, there's a special band practice that meets before school and sometimes during lunch. Tom already knew that a number of activities took place during lunch at the Fort Patrick Middle School. That was when he'd be getting his tutoring for dyslexia. He had been diagnosed in kindergarten, so it wasn't anything new, and at this point all he needed was a good tutor and extra homework time to stay caught up in all of his classes. But he didn't feel like thinking about school just yet, not when there were still a few days of summer left. So, we were wondering about cool places too, Tom began, but just then there came a shout from the sidewalk. Tom, Charlotte! Oh, sorry. Tom, Charlotte, and Tash turned to see what was going on. Sorry about that. I thought it was their dad calling them. Two boys were standing in front of Tasha's house. One of them, a tall boy with dark tan and blonde crew cut, was holding a football, while the shorter one with sunburned cheeks tried to grab it. Each time his fingers seemed to close around the ball, the taller boy jerked it from his grasp. Chase, come on, give it to me, the shorter boy begged. I need to get home, and my dad will kill me if I don't bring that back. Chase laughed and held the football high above his head. If you want it, go get it, he said in a taunting tone, and then sent the ball in a whizzing spiral down the street. That wasn't nice, was it? The first boy flew after it as Chase followed more slowly, chuckling as he went. Tom was surprised that the boy, Chase, would just throw a ball like that. What if it had hit an oncoming car and caused an accident? That was mean, Charlotte said as she looked after the boys. Tom definitely agreed with that. The other boy had seemed genuinely upset. Yeah, meet Chase Hammond, Tosh said with a sigh. He's in sixth grade with us. And I'd stay clear of him if I were you guys. That seemed like excellent advice to Tom. Anyway, Tosh said, turning back to look at Tom. What were you about to ask me? Just about what's fun here, Tom said. It's our first time living on post, Charlotte added. Tosh grinned. You guys are going to love it. Have you seen the pool yet? Charlotte was grinning too. Yeah, we drove by it. It looks awesome. It is, Tosh said. And did you know movies at the Post Theater are free? No way, Tom said. He loved movies, but always had trouble saving up his allowance. Yeah, Tosh confirmed. And they got good stuff. It's not like they're just showing old ones from like the 1990s. This was just getting better and better. Tom was about to ask more when Rosie flew into the yard, Cupcake in hot pursuit. Dad says, come home, Rosie said. Tom saw Tosh have the usual moment of confusion about why a small Asian girl was talking to two white kids about their dad. This is our sister Rosie, Charlotte said. I'm adopted from China. Rosie announced grandly. She never noticed the confusion as far as Tom could tell. She was just proud to be adopted. Neat, Taj said. I know, Rosie said. Then she turned to her siblings. We need to get home ASAP or you'll get KT duty. It's KP, Tom corrected. Kitchen police. In the Bailey home, that army term meant cleaning chores. So while Tom was disappointed not to hear more, he knew it was time to get home. As they headed back to their yard, Tom was feeling good about things. He had his own room. They were surrounded by Army kids just like them, and the base was full of awesome things like the greatest pool ever, free movies, and who knew what else. So far, life on Fort Patrick seemed pretty perfect to Tom. And that's the end of chapter 2. See you soon for chapter 3.